Welcome to another tutorial. This time we're going to talk about efficient rowing technique. With me today I have Thiago. He's going to demonstrate, and we're both wearing sunglasses because we're in Mallorca and the sun is shining as always. Before we get started on the rower, we do something very similar to what we did on the ski erg, which is setting the correct drag factor. If you wonder what drag factor is, check out the video I just mentioned, because there we cover it in a bit more detail. The drag factor on the rower is a bit different because we have more air going into the flywheel. That means when we set the damper to 10, the drag factor is going all the way up to 200 on the newly calibrated machine. But it's also a larger range of motion and we have more musculature involved. That means we also want some more resistance for very powerful strokes. Okay, so you press menu to turn on the monitor, press more options, display drag factor. As you start rowing, the rower will display your drag factor here. For men, we recommend staying between 110 and 135, and for women, we recommend staying between 100 and 125. Now Thiago starts rowing, and it just takes a couple of strokes to display the drag factor. As you can see, now it's at roughly 125. If we would do like a hard rowing interval workout, we might want to take Thiago up a bit to maybe 135. So this usually takes some fine-tuning until we have the correct value. Now, as on the ski erg, technique on the rower is very important. And this also comes down to correct sequencing. That means we want to do the right motions with our body at the correct timing. And here we always want to generate as much force as possible from the lower body and only finish the stroke with our arms and shoulders. And this is due to the fact that in the lower body we have much more powerful and bigger muscle groups, and in the upper body we don't carry as much muscle, so we can't produce as much force or power. So here we're going to run through a couple of drills to teach you the right sequencing. The first thing we're going to show you is the correct start and finish position. For the correct setup, we usually want to have the strap of the rower over the widest part of the foot. So maybe 1/3 of your foot is shown at the top and 2/3 of your foot is at the bottom. So you can move these around if necessary, if these are not in the correct position right from the start. Now we show you the perfect start position. And in rowing, the start position is called the catch. So Thiago is going to grab the handle now. He has a light grip on the handle. He's using the full width of the grip, which should be roughly shoulder width. He's going to only use his fingertips to hold on to the handle without over gripping. His arms are nice and long and relaxed. So are his shoulders. His back is straight, as you can see, and his shoulders are on top of his hips. In the catch position, we want a vertical shin angle. That means the shin is perpendicular to the floor, basically at a right angle. From here, we're in a good position to generate as much power as possible. The next position that is crucial is the finish position. So for the finish position, Thiago is going to extend his legs without flexing his quads at the top. That is very important. We don't want to restrict blood flow to a very large muscle group that we actually use while rowing. So we keep our legs straight, but fairly relaxed in the finish. Thiago is leaning back slightly. That means his shoulders are slightly behind his hips. His core is slightly activated. If he wouldn't activate his core, he would fall over backwards. This is something we want to avoid. Then you can see he's holding the handle still with a loose grip, and he's pulling it in to his higher abdomen or lower chest. A common error is that the handle gets pulled too high under the chin or something. This is something we want to avoid. We always want to have a straight line from the elbow to the wrist to where the chain is attached at the rower. We're going to run through a sequence to move from point A to point B. When we start practicing the rowing stroke, we start from the end, which is just the arm motion. So here Thiago is going to get into his finish position, and now he's just going to do the rowing motion with his arms. There will be some motion into the flywheel introduced as we get the flywheel spinning, but as you can see from the numbers on the monitor, he's not going to move. He is not producing a lot of power. Once you have this dialed in, we can already move to the next step, which is a crucial step for the rowing stroke, as it teaches us the correct timing of opening the hips and pulling with the arms. And it should always be in this exact order. That means we swing our shoulders back before we actually pull with our arms. So now Thiago is going to open his hips and then pull with the arms. So here the legs stay long, the back is always nice and straight and engaged. And as you can see, using his hips allows him to produce a lot more power. So this deep hip hinge, where we go from hinged position to open position, allows us to put a lot of power or force into the flywheel and really get it spinning and engaged. We move on to a half stroke. For the half stroke, Thiago is going to bring the sled forward maybe halfway, not going all of the way. And he's going to repeat the same motion, but extending his knees first. But the rest of the sequencing stays the exact same. So now we drive with the legs, extend the hips, and then pull with the arms. And just do a couple of strokes like this. As you can see, he's always initiating the motion by driving with the legs and then opening the hips. And finally, he's using his arms. If you use your arms too early or if you open your hips too early, you waste a lot of potential throughout your rowing stroke, and that makes it obviously very inefficient. We move to the full rowing stroke. So now we have a deeper knee flexion and go to our full catch position. And as I explained earlier, the position we're looking for here is the shin is perpendicular to the floor or at a 90-degree angle. If you watch the real-time rowing stroke in slow motion, you might see that the knee and the hips are extending relatively simultaneously. But for learning, we like to teach knees before hips, as it gives you the right concept or the right idea of what to think about during the rowing stroke. And what it looks like as a final result sometimes looks a bit different. If you're just starting out on the rower, we recommend starting at a slower stroke rate, because the slower stroke rate allows you to think about what's coming next in your stroke a bit more. And this way, we really reinforce good sequencing and good technique. The right stroke rate to row at certainly depends on your height. Taller athletes should hold a lower stroke rate, whereas shorter athletes usually have a higher stroke rate. And this basically just comes down to basic mechanics, as if you are working over a shorter range of motion, you don't displace the chain over a large amount. That means your stroke rate needs to be a bit higher to make up for that. We usually recommend for most of the workouts to sit in between 24 and 30 strokes per minute, and this is usually a pretty good range. Obviously, if you go all out and do a sprint type effort on the rower, your stroke rate is going to be a lot higher, whereas if you do a very low intensity, long conditioning piece, you then can lower your stroke rate to something like 18, 20 or 22. Thiago is going to display now going from 24 to 30 strokes per minute, so you have a visual depiction of what that would look like. One thing that is very important to always keep in mind is that just because the stroke rate changes doesn't mean your technique should change. Your technique should always stay the exact same. That means we drive with the legs first before we open the hips, and then finally finish the pull with the arms. When we reverse the motion, we extend our arms first, bend at the hip, and then bend at the knee to bring the handle back into the catch position. As you can see, he's moving a lot faster now, but that doesn't mean there is any deviation in his form or technique. And relax. Now finally, let's talk about the rower in the HYROX race. Here we have 1 kilometer of rowing, and same as the ski erg, it's a very small fraction of the overall race. That means you certainly can't win the race on the rower, but similar to the ski, you can make it a lot harder. The rower also comes a lot later in the race. That means you can actually use it to your advantage and just try to focus on solid technique with a smooth stroke and good sequencing while trying to bring your heart rate down, because it's the only movement where we actually seal it, and that usually brings our heart rate down naturally. So by having an easy row, something that is 10, 15, maybe even 20 seconds slower than your fastest 2K split is the right approach to recover for the next run and smash your next HYROX. Now, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.